What up, guys? Today we're debunking more prepper myths. And one particular that I hear regularly from haters and in the comment section is if shit hit the fan, I'll just live off the land. And it seems very similar to the mindset of like, I don't need to practice. I'll just do it when the time comes. Now, I don't know if that comes from like watching movies or like just American bravado, but whatever it is, I can tell you that it's just not going to happen the way that you have it planned out. I have a lifetime of experience telling me that, as well as people coming to survival classes to learn these skills and seeing them fail. But the good news is it's all just reps, and failure becomes a stronger learning lesson. But countless times I've had people come out and I will give them the assignment to build a fire with no instruction. And plenty of times it's been an hour plus and I'll have to stop the students and say, all right, let me just show you, and this is with giving them materials too. I remember one class in particular, I had like a trash bag full of junk mail, gave it to them, nothing after an hour. And I had to like take over and show them the structure. But it's just a little glimpse into the world of people thinking they can do something because we have all this technology that helps us in the process in the modern world. So we need to kill that. We need to kill that in our own mindset and practice, because there's a lot of things that go on to being a successful survivalist. The first is like knowing your environment, right? So if you think that you're just gonna go out and forage from the landscape and you have a wealth of plant knowledge that we've talked about in other videos and in classes and stuff, but like, do you really know the environments that you're gonna be going through? And like, what sort of contamination is there? Like, you might understand the plant knowledge, but you don't have the understanding of the environment. And if you're leaving your home, going through this contaminated area, harvesting dynamic accumulator plants to eat them, that might not be the best thing for you. I want to talk for a second about this concept of ecological debt. Now, up until like the 1950s, when fossil fuels and like chemical fertilizers were kind of introduced to the market and like popularized, we didn't have nearly as much of like a contaminated landscape as we did, or and not even contaminated, but like not nearly as fertile. We talk about how the forest adds fertility through duff and stuff, but if you think that you're going to go out onto the landscape and plant a giant garden, a lot of the landscape isn't good for you to do that right off the bat. There isn't enough organic matter. Maybe there isn't the pH isn't correct. Maybe there isn't like ample moisture. Maybe there's too much compaction. All these things we talk about when we do our homestead reports for people. But if it's not exactly perfect, your nutrition is going to suffer. And we can remediate areas. We're really big on that and teaching those skills. But thinking that you're going to go off into unremediated areas that have been depleted through modern agriculture or like woodlots, like, pine trees. A lot of people think they're going into the forest, but it's just like a planting of pine trees. And all that's depleting the soil. So if you're relying on planting stuff, it's just not going to happen the way you want. And then if we're reliant on harvesting stuff, a lot of stuff is next to roads, or like if you go into like West Virginia where we do some of our survival evolutions, like you're faced with the reality of like mining, and heavy metals and things that you have to deal with, and you have to know that. So the chances of you going off into the woods and living the life that you want is just not there, particularly with not practice. Roy Casagrande, he runs the Austin School, and he has a really wonderful talk about how hunter-gatherers have changed to farmers. Maybe I'll post a link to that. But in summary, he talks about how like when tribes had people, eventually the tribe would grow to size that it could no longer live within the carrying capacity of the earth. And so some of the tribe would go off to find greener pastures, and that's how man migrated over the world. Now, eventually, populations got to be as such that we had to be farmers. It wasn't that like we wanted to be, because the efficiency of hunter gatherers is way more than farmers. He says that for every 1 calorie that you put in to hunting and gathering, you get 10 calories back. Where farming, you put 1 calorie and you get 4 calories back. So it's not anywhere. It's like, half or less efficient. Farming is less efficient than hunting and gathering. Now, that seems kind of like contradictory from what we hear all the time. But the truth is that it's only because we needed to sustain the larger populations did we start farming. And overpopulation is like the elephant in the room, at least for overpopulation combined with like the fossil fuel edifice that we've created. So, if in a true survival situation, everybody is going to go back to tracking and trapping. The animals are going to, and hunting too, I guess, even though we talk about like active and passive, which one's better. But to think that you're going to be tracking and trapping at the same time in a true emergency and getting the nutrients that you will need, it's not a real thing. And you're not doing it now, right? So you haven't built that skill set. Your parents didn't teach it to you, most likely, because we're a couple generations removed from living with the land in the traditional sense, right? And so I point to like the 1936, was it Lykov? Is that how you say it? But there's a family that fled Russia to like southern Siberia. They left like a husband and a wife, left with 2 kids. They ended up having 2 more kids, but ultimately they lived for 42 years out there in an otherwise uninhabited region. So think if you're trying to do that in a habited region like now, like the cities, it's just not gonna go down. So they're 42 years in an otherwise uninhabited region. The wife ended up dying on a very lean year because they needed to feed the kids. And then so when they were found by, I think a geologist group flying in a helicopter, one of those geologists stayed on and interviewed. It's actually a Vice interview, very interesting. Like the last of the Lykovs, maybe is what it's called. But she said that the geologist that lived with her was like absolutely useless, and she had to go get water for him. So it just speaks to the uneducated thinking they're going to go back to the land. There's a lot of learning curve. As Reed Hendricks says, and I know you've heard me say it, is the lessons we learn are written on the tombstones of others. But the interesting part of the Lykov story is the big debate was, should they plant seeds or should they eat them, because otherwise they were starving. So it was like how that constant balance of like what's going to kill us sooner, So the takeaway from that is like one does not just do anything. We hear that all the time, and like people say it like in the context of like, oh, if someone broke into my home, I would just shoot them. And anytime I hear someone say I would just do whatever, I'm immediately cued in that they are a beginner in that, because there's things that always have to happen before people just do anything. You just have to go to a Jiu Jitsu class, right? That's the same mentality of like, oh, if I got into a fight, I would just see red, and I can't be held responsible. But like, people can't handle me when I see red. You go to a Jiu Jitsu class, and I guarantee you, as a full grown man, there's a 12-year-old girl that will whip your ass on the mats. And it's because they have a system built and they've been learning the skill set, and you think you can do it until you test it. The other thing that we have is like, oh, I've built this survival library where you haven't like read any of the stuff, and in the time of need, you're gonna like go back through the books and then somehow be an expert. And you just don't have the time. You don't have the time. So the ultimate takeaway from this is that like, find a good school, find a good mentor, better yet, a good community that you can live inside of, and you can avoid the traps of thinking you can do it alone and doing it at speed. And I cite my own example. Like, I'm 15 years into building this college type environment, and that was in my 3-year plan. So if you have a plan to like go out there and like track and trap your way to survival, those Lykovs I think were setting like 100 traps a day and still starving. So if you don't know like your soil dynamics, your pressure releases, your funneling, your traps, your triggers, and all that comes together in a cohesive way. You're just not going to make it on your own without practice. And if you don't believe me, sign up for one of our survival evolutions, and I guarantee you learn a whole lot about yourself and about living with the land. That's kind of the point. Is come out to us. We'll shave years off the time it would take you to figure this stuff out on your own, and ultimately give you a leg up on the folks that have the mentality of I'll just live off the land. I don't need to practice. I'll learn in the moment. Thanks for watching this video. If you made it this far, I know you have a passion for life and surviving whatever the universe throws at you. Drop us a like, make sure you're subscribed so you never miss a video. But ultimately, sustainablehomestead.com is the place to go for more information. Shave decades off the time it would take you to learn these skills on your own. Look through our resource library. Join our weekly homestead mastermind where we have survivalists, bushcrafters, homesteaders, preppers, project managers, and everything in between, focused on discussions that bring abundance for them, for yourself, your family, and your community. You really can't afford to miss that call. It's the cheapest way to get into that community and join the tribe. Or you can schedule your own in-person survival evolution. We have dates listed, or you can book a private course. As always, preparation today means peace of mind tomorrow. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the future.